The fans campaigned to get Knights into All-Star Racing so much, they actually contacted Sumo Digital about it. And we got Knights as a convertible. That's right, today we are looking at what might possibly be one of my favourite racing games of all time. This is Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now, this game initially released in November 2012 on the PlayStation 3, the 360 and the Wii U, later launching on the PlayStation Vita in December, followed by a Windows port in early 2013 and then a 3DS port a little bit later on. The game would eventually find itself on Android and iOS in 2014 as well. God, this game got around. The game was developed by Sumo Digital, a developer that we have discussed quite a lot on this channel, who also developed the previous game, the Sonic Sega tennis game, and the new kart racing battle royale game, Stampede. There are two questions I'm putting forward in this video today, and the first of those is this game better than the first one? And secondly, is this one of the best sequels to a video game ever made? Now, I'm sure you have your own opinion on this game as you're watching this video, and that's all the fun of this. We get to spark a conversation, discuss the good, the bad, the best, and the worst of the series. Now, for reference, the version of the game you are seeing on screen is the Windows version. I have played this the most, I have also played the Vita version, but today we're going to be talking specifically about the Windows one. Now, in terms of gameplay and most content, this is the exact same as the 360, PS3, and Wii U versions, so we can bring those into the discussion as well. So to start with, let's focus on the characters in the game, because my god, there are quite a lot of them. So I'm not going to talk in depth about every character included in this game because this would be a very long video. Instead, let me just read to you the franchises that are represented in all versions of the game. Monkey Ball, Samba de Amigo, Alex Kidd, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Space Channel 5, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Nights into Dreams, Skies of Arcadia, and of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, that's without the guest characters as well, which we will get to in just a moment. Now, they really did my boy Billy the Hatcher dirty here because he did not make a comeback. One of his tracks is in this game, but the character himself is sadly a no-show. Now, if you watched my video on Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, you will probably remember one of my only complaints about that game was that it could have done with more representation for other Sega franchises. Now, obviously, I completely understand that Sonic is the selling point, you're going to put more Sonic in, makes sense. I just love Sega, I love seeing their back catalogue, so forgive me, but this game kind of resolves that issue. There are a lot of franchises here, like a lot. The PC version has even more. So the PC version gets Ryo from Shenmue, Willimus from Total War Rome, General Winter from Company of Heroes, which is just the most ridiculous thing ever to have in a kart racer, followed by Football Manager. That's right, Football Manager is a playable character in a kart racing video game, which is just ridiculous. As well as this, there was also Shogun from Shogun Total War. Basically, my point is the Sega representation here is fantastic. And the roster is just absolutely ridiculous, and that's without even getting to the guest characters. Sumo Digital, you beautiful you gave us such a good roster here. Now, let's talk guest characters, because these are just absolutely ridiculous. So in all versions of the game, you get Ralph from the Disney movie Wreck-It Ralph. I'm gonna wreck it! Which, if you have seen that movie, Sonic the Hedgehog does appear in. We have Danica Patrick, as in the American race driver, which is just the most absurd crossover ever. We kind of only focus on Formula 1 here in England, so I don't really know anything about Danica Patrick, but it's cool she's here. Then another PC exclusive guest got the Team Fortress characters. What? Why? But also, that's fantastic. The Team Fortress characters are playable in a kart racing video game. It's just fantastic.
Ah, this is bad! Ah!
And now, last but not least, another PC exclusive, but possibly the most cursed and ridiculous of the lot. Yogscast is in those British YouTubers that used to do a lot of Minecraft. Yogscast, that's a playable character in a real video game. Steam reviews for the DLC are not good, guys. Don't play as that character. Anyway, referring back to my question about this being better than the first, the roster is definitely better than the first game. even if my boy Banjo-Kazooie doesn't make an appearance in the Xbox version of the game. Okay, so next up we have the tracks. Now there are some tracks that have returned from the previous game, but there's also a few new ones. Much like the previous game, the design for like nearly all of these tracks are absolutely fantastic. That cursed Monkey Ball one that I didn't like in the last game has been replaced with a different Monkey Ball themed one in this one, which is so much better. And again, there are some franchises here represented that did not get characters in the game, including Burning Rangers, Afterburner, Panzer Dragoon, and then also Billy the Hatchet and House of the Dead, two franchises of which had characters in the previous game but not in this one. And if you bought DLC, there's also a map for Outrun. Basically, once again, the representation here is absolutely fantastic, and as I say, they're all pretty well designed. On top of this, the environments they're in are absolutely gorgeous. On the PC version, it looks fantastic, with some highlights for me being Carrier Zone, Seasonal Shrines, and Samba Studios, all looking sublime.
Sublime!
Now let's talk about the gameplay itself. I do have to say, one thing that did take a massive downgrade in this game were the All-Star moves. Now in the first game, every character had an individual All-Star move. In this one, there's basically just 4 different moves that have been reskinned and slapped on each character, which is fine, but it just took away a little bit of the charm that the first game had. Anyway, the vehicles in this game handle very well. Now, that's quite impressive because this game features both cars, boats, and planes. Hence the name Transformed, you swap between them in the race in different segments. My initial worry going into this game back in the day, and returning to it now, were how the handling would go from being a car to a plane. I was expecting quite a jarring experience, but what you actually get is a smooth transition between the two, and unless you're not really paying attention, it's quite hard to mess up that. Much like the previous game, drifting feels great, although I think it feels a little bit tighter and more responsive in this one, and once again the items all have their own unique charms. Except you All-Star moves. You. Now, the last game had that single player challenge mode, but this one steps it up to a whole new campaign. There's no story of course, but you play through a load of missions that you can choose the difficulty of each time, and this progression unlocks characters and tracks with a star system rather than earning Sega Miles as a currency in the previous one. Once you earn enough stars and get through enough of the challenges, you get to the end of the game, in inverted commas, but you actually unlock a 4-star harder difficulty mode.
Wow, what a twist.
Not really.
What I'm trying to say is there's a really nice difficulty curve in this game. It starts off really easy, but as the game progressed, I actually found myself having to think, and sometimes even messing up. And I say sometimes, quite a lot of the time, messing up in the later races. Especially the boost and drift challenges, because I'm really bad at letting go of the acceleration, so I always fly off corners. If you guys have seen any of my Cars live streams, you will see how bad of a driver I am. Anyway, back to my questions. These quality of life improvements, minus the All-Star moves, definitely make this game superior to the previous game. Another great feature of this game is the level system for the characters. Each character has a level system and you earn XP based on your performance and standing in the race or event you've just completed. These levels unlock mods for your characters, basically different variations of the stats. You'll have a balanced mod, a speed mod, a boost mod, so on and so forth. It just changes up the gameplay a little bit. And you can really feel the difference on some of the characters based on their different mods. You'll probably notice in the gameplay I've played a lot of Metal Sonic, and I've just consistently been using the balanced mod because he just plays so well. Anyway, the graphics. Cool, especially on PC, this game looks absolutely amazing. I mean, just look at Metal Sonic, that's like the best he's ever looked. I think all the characters in this game look absolutely fantastic. Wreck-It Ralph looks a little bit off, but that's just because he's a movie character from Pixar in this game. I don't know, it just looked a bit weird, but all the characters look amazing. And as I mentioned before, the environments and tracks, oh my goodness. I just love a game with a lot of colours, which was one of my biggest compliments to the previous game, and might explain why I like the Samba de Amigo track so much, because honestly that track is like a fever dream. There's so many things happening and so many cool colours on screen at once. Another great aspect of this game, especially the PC one, is the multiplayer. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing on the PC did not get a multiplayer online mode, whereas thankfully in its sequel we were lucky enough to be given it. And it's great. You've got races, mini games, team battles, head-to-head stuff, and just all sorts. It's really good. Last I checked, the servers were still up across the board on the 360 and PS3 as well, so you should still be able to play this game online if anyone is still playing it, but I always love me some online multiplayer on my kart racing games. Anyway, that leads us to our two big questions. Firstly, is this game better than the original? And I'm gonna have to say it definitely is. I love the first game, I think it's fantastic, but I think this one just takes the edge over it a little bit in terms of design and quality, and also the roster. Which really answers my other question for me as well. I will stand by the fact that this is one of the best video game sequels of all time. It just improves on the original in nearly every aspect, with just some minor issues dragging it down just a tiny bit. Now, before we finish this video up, there are some cool little bits of information that I would like to share with you about this game. Some of you will probably know this stuff already. But once again, I just think it's quite funny that the PS3 version does not get an exclusive character. I seem to remember saying about the last game, it would have been cool to have seen Sackboy or another kind of cartoony Sony character in the game, but no, nothing. And whilst we're talking about PlayStations, this is the first Sonic the Hedgehog game that made it onto the PlayStation Vita, not counting the PSP re-releases online, and also the Wii U. And on the other hand, this is the final Sonic game released on the PlayStation 3 as well as the 360. One more cool fact in this game is that Vice from Skies of Arcadia is the only character who does not have recycled voice clips from his own game. The original voice actor Christopher Sullivan actually provided new voice lines for him specifically for this game, which is just, I think is very cool, especially if you're a Skies of Arcadia fan. If you are, please make yourself known. Anyway, that takes us to the end of our look at Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications for future uploads, and as always, I will see you in the next video.